What is up, guys? Edgeboy is back. Eminence in Shadow second season has hit, and we are back finally again to do impressions on this series. I had a lot of people that enjoyed my impressions last season, even though I wasn't always super positive about the series, which I think is always a positive thing. Whenever you're not 100% with something, everybody loves it, but yet they still enjoy your content. But yeah, really did enjoy this episode. I think the first episode of this season really did kick off really well. I really enjoyed it all the way through. There was two things that I didn't like. One is the aspect that even though I got this indication last season that we were going to go right into Shadow Garden with Rose joining them, I guess we're forgetting that whole thing. Like, we left the last season with this whole, here's Rose in the Shadow Garden and she's going to train in there, and then it's like, nope, we're going to go see the vampires instead. Which, I don't know, I should have expected. I had a couple people kind of mention to me, like, don't expect they're going to go into Shadow Garden yet. Don't worry about it. We're still going to do something else. So I was expecting it coming into this, but still, it's a little bit disappointing because, again, my enjoyment for the series has always been around Shadow Garden. I love that aspect of it. I love the aspect of the Shadow Garden being sort of this group that has been formed around Sid's delusions, and yet it all comes to reality. And we have it again, technically, at the beginning of this episode, where, yes, he makes some comment about the blood moon, and everybody starts freaking out, and it ends up becoming true. But yeah, really solid first beginning of this, even though, again, we don't get Shadow Garden really at all, except for the very beginning, where everybody is finishing each other's sentences. No, but no, visually it looked decent. I think the only real problem I have with this episode is a lot of stills, which, yes, technically was par for the course in the first season. I think they did a really good job of kind of settling down the animators, doing a lot of stills, but then whenever the action kicks in, they have some decent animation. But man, do we have to have 13 seconds of a still of people in a pub? Come on, it's the first episode of the season. Go balls to the wall. Go crazy with it. Get some crazy animation in here. Don't let us stare at a bunch of guys for 13 seconds. If you're gonna do a still for that long, at least do really hot girls, because you have a nice cast of female characters. But now it seems like the focus of this season is vampires. We have the Lawless city where there's funds going to it, and apparently there's this red moon that is popping up that's stimulating magical energy and is part of stimulating the power so that they can resurrect the Queen of Vampires. And it just so happens that Sid's being dragged there by Claire. I'm still holding my theories around Claire herself, but yeah, apparently Claire won the Bushin Festival. I don't remember that part from the last season. I know they had the Bushin Festival going on, and then things went to crap, but apparently they, I don't know, reconvened and then had them actually finish the Bushin Festival, and Claire won it. So she immediately became a soldier and runs off to kill vampires. And, of course, drags Sid with her because she doesn't want Sid to go anywhere. It seemed like there was quite a bit of emphasis this episode on Claire being worried for Sid's future. Now, again, my whole theory around Claire is that she is the girl. I don't even remember her name. It's been so long. The first episode of the first season, there was this girl in the other world with Sid when he was becoming the Eminence in Shadow. And she was the one that he ended up saving. She was an idol or something like that, an ex-idol. And my theory has always been that Claire is that girl. And that's why she's so obsessed with Sid. And so it would kind of play into my theory that there's a possibility that Claire knows who Sid really is and wants him to be something important in this new world. Or it could just be an overly doty sister, which, yes, is an archetype that this show is probably going to feed onto because every single one of the Shadow Garden girls is an archetype. This author isn't afraid of messing with archetypes. But yes, obviously Claire has a goal. She's getting stronger. She wins the Bushin Festival. She becomes a soldier. She wants to go off and kill vampires. At the same time, she's dragging Sid along and wondering what his dreams are to be, which he doesn't want to mention because obviously it's to be the Eminence in Shadow. But his other persona, his Sid persona, it doesn't really have dreams or desires because it's all in his persona that he is at night. And this bugs Claire. She wants him to be something important. And it seems to be showing that a lot in this episode. But yeah, it does kind of make me wonder if Sid knew that Claire was going to drag him to the Lawless City because, yes, as the Shadow Garden members are all saying that something's happening in the Lawless City, funding's going there probably to resurrect the Queen of Vampires. He's like, no, I'm going to handle it. Which again bugs me because I want these girls to get involved. But he does have a good point. The idea that he's mentioning all this idea and they're just blowing up with this idea of it actually existing and he doesn't want that to cause problems. But yeah, when Sid gets lost in the episode, he ends up running into a bunch of ghouls and, yes, Mary, the vampire hunter, which I usually don't. For those that don't remember, when I was doing my impressions of the first season, I wasn't a big fan of Sid. Again, I've never been a fan of Sid. His comedy isn't really funny to me. I love everything around him. I love the world itself. I love the Shadow Garden. I love the chemistry between Sid and Shadow Garden. I just don't like Sid when he's alone. But I did actually find a lot of humor in Sid this episode because, yes, a lot of it is around he hears something from this Mary girl and he just runs with it. It was so cool how she said, you know, the red moon is hit. We don't have time. Run, flee if you can. All this kind of words, and it just hits him. And he ends up going around and repeating the same thing over and over again. I was half expecting the one girl in the red light district to say something about how you said that already. But yes, as per usual, his statements kind of inspire people, and apparently that's her whole reason for leaving. So I'm assuming at some point she's going to pop back up because she seemed a little bit too unique and important not to be probably another Shadow Garden member. I went back to the last season and I was kind of curious if there was anything sort of mentioned around Lawless City, because it does seem like there is sort of a faction system built around here. They claim the idea that this is inside the Aryan Kingdom and how it's kind of in the middle. It's not a sanctioned city for anybody, but everything sort of collates to here. And if anything happens there, it can affect the other areas. But it seems like there's like 3 major factions there. One's the vampires, one is the Juggernaut, one is Yukime, and they seem to have always been kind of existing side by side. But now that this Crimson is now trying to resurrect the Queen of Vampires, things are starting to hit the fan. Sacrifices are needed and everything. So I'll be curious to see how that all plays out. It's obvious that Sid's going to want to get involved with Juggernaut and Yukime to fight them and do cool things. But I'll be curious if there's actually a deeper plot line there. Not that I ever really have high expectations for a lot of the story beats in Eminence and Shadow. Sometimes it intrigues me. I think especially with everything with Alpha in the first season, that stuff was where I'm like, okay, cool. This writer has some cool stuff in here. There's also a lot of emphasis in the first season about this civilization that has existed before the current civilization. So there is tidbits here and there that does intrigue me. The one thing that was kind of odd for me was Mary when she runs into Claire, which was, yes, kind of funny. The idea that Claire's sobbing over her dead brother and she's got this head that she's cradling. And then at some point Mary shows up and says, "You're this girl that's looking for a boy with black hair and black eyes." And she's like, "Yes, I found him." "No, that's not him right there. He doesn't have the same hair color," or something like that. And then Claire just kind of chucks this head, and I'm like, one, how does Claire not know it's not him? You would think that she's so obsessed with Sid that she would recognize him no matter how messed up his body is. But still, Mary says something to the effect of, "I've seen 2 people like that. One is a guy that's running around maniacally just killing all these ghouls," which obviously is Shadow. And yeah, Claire's like, "No, he wouldn't do that." And the other was taken as a sacrifice to the tower to resurrect the Queen of Vampires. Now that's an odd statement to make because, no, if he's out there killing things as Shadow, he wouldn't have been captured and taken in there. I think the way that it's worded insinuates the idea that he was Shadow slaughtering a bunch of stuff, and then he basically changed back to being Sid, and then let himself get captured so that he can go into the tower. But why would he need to do that is the big massive question mark there. But it's Sid. Who knows what the hell Sid wants to do? That said, I do like the idea of the pairing of Mary and Claire. Already, I really like the design of Mary. I think she looks fantastic, but I think there'll be a good pairing between the two of them. It is kind of nice to actually have Claire getting involved with the story for once, because she's always kind of been a side joke character that she just shows up and wonders where Sid's at. But now to actually have her involved in the possible future of this story will be pretty cool. But yeah, with that said, decent start for the season. Nice introduction of 2 new characters that I'm intrigued by, Yukime and Mary. Hopefully we don't get any more 13-second stills and it could be a solid season overall. But yeah, look forward to more of it. But I hope you guys enjoyed my impressions of this episode. If you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list if it's anime, is pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super link, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate what it does, and y'all take care.